Hey guys, I'm a Cyborg Sheep. Welcome to the Weekend Post. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at this floppy drive right here. In a previous video, you'll remember that I tore this out of a desktop that I did a teardown video on. Additionally, in another video that I did, I took a look at a brushless DVD motor module. I tried everything to try to get that to modify it in such a way that I could use it. However, I just couldn't get it working. The main problem was that it was pretty much permanently stuck onto the top of the motor, so there's basically no way you can take it apart. However, I thought about it a little bit since that video, and I thought of a different way to get that and the exact same motor in here running. So, let's tear this thing down. Let's get this video started. But before we get to taking it apart, I want to talk a little bit about how floppy disks work. Essentially speaking, there were three different types. The type I am drawing here is the 3.5-inch version. They looked somewhat like an SD card, although they were a little bit bigger. They had a small cutout on the side, and that was the write protect notch. If you covered that up with, say, tape, the disc could neither be written to or read from. They also had a cutout in the top center for reading and writing information, and a hole in the very center for a motor to turn it. Now, in my mind, floppy disks are actually the better storage device compared to compact disks. This is because none of the information written to the floppy disk is permanent. Data can be read and written through simple magnetization of the disk, whereas a compact disk, you actually have to physically burn holes in the disk, which leads me to believe that compact disks can only be written to once. After they're written to once, it's probably hard to change the data because of the physical change that you've made to the disk. In terms of how the floppy drive works, there's essentially three main components. Of course, there's the disk. There's also a motor for turning the disk to different sections so that they can be either magnetized or demagnetized. And finally, there is a magnetic header that can be moved back and forth to different tracks of the disk. And the slot of the drive is built in such a way that the read and write hole of the floppy disk lines up perfectly with the magnetic header. Now, if you want a more detailed description, you can check the link in the description, but I think that's good enough for now. Now that I have floppy disks, someone explained, let's start figuring out the motor. Now, to figure out the motor, we first have to tear this thing apart. So, let's start doing that. So, now I have this motor more or less visible along with its driver IC. The next thing to do is to look at the datasheet. Like anyone will tell you, any electronics enthusiast, the most important thing to look at when working with ICs such as this one is the datasheet. It gives you useful information such as signal inputs, typical applications, and also how the IC works. So let's Google this number on the IC right there and see what we can find. Unfortunately, a quick Google search revealed nothing conclusive, just a bunch of datasheet search engines, which led me to equivalent ICs that are a newer model than this one. So I proceeded to get a multimeter and use its continuity function. Okay, so I've been troubleshooting this for the past couple of, well, I don't know, past couple of hours. Look at this. Like, come on. Okay, so this is nothing like the other one. You could not take this off with that disk drive motor. But this you can take off. So in theory, yeah. In theory now it shouldn't be that hard, but I still want to see if I can't get this IC working. Now, I have been working to try and figure it out. I drew up a circuit diagram of the connections. The IC pins are connected to some of the outputs on the IC on this board, but oddly enough, one of them is connected through a 1.3 ohm resistor. Basically speaking, a resistor is a it basically resists a certain amount of voltage based on its resistance rating, but that's connected to the read head. Now these two heads that would read the value that the of the floppy disk, if a portion of it is magnetized or not. But this is interesting. So you can see how the coils are made. That's pretty slick. Now I can actually get a better look at what I'm looking at here too. So yeah, still working on trying to figure out how to get this IC to work. Unfortunately, this IC is outdated. Now, I've gone and looked at the datasheet for an equivalent model, although I'm not so sure how equivalent it is really, because like some of the things just don't match. So I'm gonna keep moving on, but I mean, like, who would have thought, man? That thing was just sitting there. You cannot do that on the other one, so that's kind of interesting. Okay, continuing on. Okay, so after maybe a couple of hours, because of my inexperience of soldering with very small contacts, okay, I think I'm finally done soldering on. I soldered in these wires because with the flat flex cable, it wouldn't quite be that easy to, because some of the wires had broken off and were too small, but also the yeah, it'd be kind of harder to work with. This is a little bit easier, except the wires might break off, which would be way no fun. But hopefully that won't happen. So first of all, this right here, I will call ground. Now the rest, in theory, I'll hook up to voltage and see what I get. Okay, hooking up this one. Okay. Let's stick some more on voltage and see what we get. There we go. And let's see. Still nothing. Okay. How about... Let's... Well, that was kind of anticlimactic, but, camera lost, ran out of charge. Anyways, so, we had this lead hooked up, and this lead hooked up, and that's as far as we got. Camera after that, battery lost, charge was out. But anyways, let's continue on. So, let's see, where else can I hook on here? Like that. Alright, need to turn it on. Let me... Here, I'll do a multimeter check real quick. Alright, just making absolute sure that we are at 5 volts or very close to it. From there to ground. Okay, hooking up that. Yeah, 3.4. So let's 4 volts, 4.8, let's leave it at. Okay, so, continue hooking up the leads, so, nothing. Ah, sticking lead broke off. Oh well. Okay, well. Then let's just try this one. Let's see. Still nothing. Okay, well let me see here. That last one is probably what I need. Let's try connecting and disconnecting some of these and see what happens. Nothing. Nothing. Let's see what pins I have 5 volts on. Eight volts, what the heck? Ooh. Let's turn that down a slight bit. Still too high. Let's turn it down.
And Christine, your auto insurance.
4.7. That looks a bit better. Tell you what, I'll try and figure out what's going on. I might solder that other lead on and see if that changes anything. But, yeah. I'll turn the camera back on if this thing starts trinificating. So. See those two contacts there that aren't shiny? Or only so shiny along the way? Yeah. Melted right to hell. I swear. The things that factories put out these days. Pieces of crap that aren't meant to be tampered with, but just used. Well, you know what they say. If it was easy, somebody would have already done it. I've been working on this thing for 2 days, almost. Well, a day and maybe a day and a quarter, maybe. I can't really get it to work. Now, if this IC wasn't so outdated, this motor would probably be running by now, because I would have known how to operate it and how to get it and what this IC needs to make this thing turn. But anyways, I think I'm going to leave it at that. If it was easy, somebody would have already done it. Clearly, nobody has tried working with this IC, so that's why I'm having such a gosh darn hard time. So, yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. Hope you dudes enjoyed the video, or whatever there was. And there still isn't even stuff I haven't tried yet. Like, some of these pins might be looking for a PWM signal when I'm giving them just straight voltage. So, like, I'm kind of confused now. Yeah. Videos don't always work out, so I'll see you dudes in the next episode. Okay, before I end the video, I want to try one more thing. Now my power supply here has an AC output and a DC output. What I'm going to try is, I've hooked up the AC output. The AC output is always on, so nothing to set up. Now the contacts, there's test points on the PCB to make sure that the IC is working. Now I shouldn't do this for too long because this thing is not designed to take AC output. I've tried this before I started recording, so let's just go like this. Boom! Okay. There we go. And oh yeah, that's getting real toasty. Anyways, hope you dudes enjoyed the video. And yeah, I'll see you dudes in the next episode.